Here is the completely localized, narrative adaptation of your story, tailored for an American audience. After 30 years of sacrificing everything for my son, he gave my house to his mother-in-law, the mother of the wife he met barely 2 years ago. 30 years of cleaning other people's houses so Tyler could study. 30 years of sleeping 4 hours a night. 30 years of building a legacy brick by brick with my own wrecked hands. And there I was, placing the deed and the keys on the oak table, while Diane, that woman who appeared in our lives only 24 months ago, looked at me with a victorious smile that made my stomach turn. "Congratulations, Mrs. Diane," I said, keeping my voice steady, even though I felt like something inside me was shattering into 1,000 pieces. My son nodded, as if he were approving the delivery of a random package, not the house I bought with decades of sweat. His words fell like stones on my chest. "She deserves more than you, Mom." Diane has always known how to give unconditional love, without expecting anything in return. Brittany, his wife of barely 2 years, smiled satisfied from her chair, stroking her mother's hand with tenderness. She was wearing that champagne-colored dress I had given her for her birthday, the one that cost $200 that I took from my savings. Life had such a twisted sense of irony. I took the manila envelope out of my purse. Thick, heavy, sealed with care. I had prepared it during weeks of sleepless nights, consulting, verifying, making sure every detail was perfect. I placed it in front of Diane, like someone handing over an award. "Everything is in here, Mrs. Diane. The final documents. The house is officially yours now." Her hands trembled with emotion when she took the envelope. Her coral-colored nails shone under the dining room light as she tore the paper with anxiety. Tyler walked over to her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. Brittany stood up to look too, the three of them leaning over those papers like vultures over prey. I saw the exact moment Diane read the first page. Her smile froze. Her eyes opened so wide it looked like they were going to pop out of their sockets. The color vanished from her face like water draining away. This cannot be real." Her voice was barely a choked whisper. Tyler snatched the documents from her, his eyes moving frantically over the lines. I saw him go pale. I saw his hands start to shake. "You are joking!" Diane's scream echoed off the walls. "This has to be a sick joke, Margaret." Brittany took the papers with trembling hands, reading with growing desperation. Her lips moved without sound, as if she could not believe what her eyes were seeing. I remained standing, calm, with my purse hanging from my arm. "It is exactly what you asked for. The house. Completely yours. But to understand how we got to this moment, to understand what that envelope contained that made Diane scream that way, I need to take you back in time. I need you to see who I was before I became the invisible woman that my own son decided to discard. I was 7 years old when I learned that in my family, I would always be the second option. It was my sister Catherine's birthday, and my mother had spent $300 on a lavender dress with imported lace for her. I was wearing the same dress from the previous year, 2 sizes too small, with the hem unstitched that I had tried to fix myself with thread that was not the right color. "Margaret, go to the kitchen and help your aunt with the snacks," my mother ordered me without even looking at me. Catherine twirled in front of the mirror, laughing while everyone showered her with compliments. No one noticed when I slipped away to the kitchen, with eyes full of tears I refused to shed. That was the first lesson, not the last. At 12 years old, when Catherine wanted piano lessons, my parents sold my bicycle to pay for them. "You can walk to school. Margaret, your sister has talent. She needs to develop it." I walked 4 miles every day for 3 years. Catherine quit piano after 4 months. At 16, I worked after school cleaning offices to help with the household expenses. Catherine received a weekly allowance of $50 to go out with her friends. I saved every penny I earned in a cookie tin hidden under my bed, dreaming of someday being able to buy myself something nice, something just for me. I never did. When I turned 18, I met David. He was 6 years older than me, worked in construction, had strong hands, and a smile that made me feel seen for the first time in my life. I got pregnant with Tyler 3 months later. David disappeared before I could even tell him he was going to be a father. My family kicked me out. "You embarrassed us, Margaret. We do not want to see you anymore." Catherine did not even say goodbye. So there I was, 18, pregnant, alone, sleeping in a rented room that smelled of mold and had a leak, I covered with plastic buckets every time it rained. I worked cleaning houses during the day, and at night I washed dishes at a diner. I slept 4 hours, if I was lucky. When Tyler was born, I held him in my arms in that county hospital where the nurses barely had time to look at us, and I made him a promise. You are going to have everything I never had. I swear it on my life, son. Everything. And I kept that promise. I kept every single word. Tyler never wore secondhand clothes. He never went to bed hungry. He never walked in the rain because I could not afford the bus. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously for years. My hands cracked from the bleach and detergents. My back hurt so much there were nights I could not stand up straight, but he always had the best. I enrolled him in the best school I could afford. $200 a month that I came up with by cleaning 6 extra houses every month. When the other kids talked about their family vacations, I bought him books and told him that traveling through stories was the best adventure. He believed me then. He looked at me with those eyes full of admiration and said, "You are the best mom in the world." At what moment did he stop believing it? At 15, Tyler wanted to study at a more prestigious private high school. The tuition was $600 a month. Impossible. Oh, that is what I thought for 2 days, until I got a 4th shift cleaning offices in the early morning. I slept 2.5 hours a night. It was worth it to see his face when I told him yes, that he could go to that school. I love you, Mom. I am going to make you proud. And he did. He graduated with honors. He got into college with a partial scholarship. I covered the rest, now working 4 jobs. My friends, the few I had, told me I was exaggerating, that I was going to kill myself working like that. He is my son, I told them. He is my only family. Everything I do is for him. I saved for 20 years to buy that house. 20 years of gathering every penny left over after paying for food, Tyler's clothes, his books, his college. 20 years dreaming of the day we would finally have a home of our own, without landlords who could kick us out, without thin walls where you could hear everything the neighbors did. When I signed the deed to that house at 58 years old, I cried. I cried, holding those papers as if they were the most valuable treasure in the universe. Because they were. They were the proof that all that sacrifice had been worth it. Tyler hugged me that day. "Mom, you did it. I always knew you would." 2 years later, he met Brittany. Brittany came into our lives like a summer storm, unexpected and overwhelming. Tyler met her at a marketing conference where he was presenting his senior project. She worked as an administrative assistant at a mid-sized company, was 28 years old, and had a smile that, according to my son, lit up any room. He brought her home 3 weeks after meeting her. "Mom, I want to introduce you to someone very special," he told me that Saturday afternoon, with a sparkle in his eyes I had never seen before. Brittany walked into our house in a peach-colored dress and heels that echoed on the ceramic floor I had scrubbed that very morning. She extended her hand to me with studied delicacy. "Missus, Margaret, it is a pleasure to meet you. Tyler speaks wonders of you." I made coffee and brought out the homemade cookies I had baked the day before. We sat in the living room, and I watched how Tyler looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. He spoke differently when he was with her, used fancier words, laughed differently. I realized in that moment that my son was in love. "My mom lives alone too," Brittany commented while sipping her coffee. "She was widowed 5 years ago. Sometimes I worry that she is so isolated, you know? An older woman, alone in that big house." I nodded with understanding, not knowing those words were the first seeds of what would come later. The following months were a whirlwind. Tyler spent more and more time with Brittany and less at home. Normal, I told myself. That is how young relationships are. But there was something about the way she looked at him, something calculating behind those sweet smiles that put my nerves on edge. I met Diane 4 months later at a dinner Brittany organized at her apartment. She was a 62-year-old woman, with hair dyed auburn and excessive makeup that failed to hide the lines of bitterness around her mouth. She wore expensive clothes, wore flashy jewelry, and spoke with that tone of superiority some people use to compensate for their insecurities. "So you are the famous Margaret," she said when we were introduced, looking me up and down with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Brittany has told me that you worked so much to give Tyler an education. How admirable. Raising a son alone must have been so difficult." There was condescension in every word. I did what any mother would do, I responded simply. Oh, but not everyone can do it alone, Diane continued, settling onto the sofa as if it were a throne. I had the blessing that Brittany's father left us well insured before dying. I never had to sacrifice my dignity cleaning other people's houses. The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Tyler coughed uncomfortably. Brittany touched her mother's arm with a nervous giggle. Mom, please. But Diane just smiled, sipping her glass of wine. Just speaking the truth, darling. Everyone has their reality. That night, when Tyler drove me back home, he was unusually quiet. At the red light, he broke the silence. Diane did not mean to offend you. Mom, sometimes she speaks without thinking. She did not offend me. I lied. It is just that she comes from another world, you know? She is used to a certain lifestyle. He paused. Brittany too. That is why sometimes I feel, I do not know, like I have to prove I can give her that life. Something cold settled in my chest. Tyler, you are worth who you are, not how much money you have. He did not answer, but I saw something change in his expression, something that scared me. 6 months later, they announced the engagement. Tyler came home one Sunday afternoon with Brittany, both radiant. Mom, we are getting married. We want you to be the first to know. I hugged them, told them I was happy for them. I made a special dinner, but when Brittany went to the bathroom, Tyler approached me with a serious expression. Mom, I need to ask you something. He took a deep breath. Diane does not have a place to live comfortably. Her house is very old. It has structural problems. Brittany is worried about her. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. Yes, this house is big. It has 3 bedrooms. We thought maybe Diane could move in here with you. It would be temporary, while we find a better solution. I stared at him, looking for some sign that he was joking. I did not find it. Tyler, this is my house. I bought it for us, for you and for me. I know, Mom, but think about it. You would be so generous. Diane is older. She is alone, and she is going to be family. You wouldn't want to help your family? The word family sounded hollow coming from his lips. No, I said firmly. This is my house. I'm not going to share it with a woman I barely know and who treated me with contempt the only time we spoke. Tyler's face hardened. I knew you would say that. Brittany was right about you. What is that supposed to mean? That you are selfish, Mom. You have always been possessive of me. You do not want me to have a family of my own because you want me to stay here, taking care of you forever. His words hit me like slaps. Is that what you think of me? After everything I did for you? There it is again. Everything I did for you. As if I owed you my entire life. He stood up, furious. You did what a mother is supposed to do, Mom. You did not do me any special favor. Brittany returned from the bathroom just at that moment, capturing the attention immediately. What is wrong? Nothing, Tyler said, taking her by the arm. We are leaving. My mom made her position very clear. I watched them leave, and something inside me broke that night. Something that would never be the same again. Over the next few weeks, Tyler barely called me. When he did, his conversations were cold, brief, full of awkward silences. Brittany never got on the phone. On social media, I saw photos of them with Diane, family dinners, outings, celebrations from which I was completely excluded. In one photo, Tyler was hugging Diane with the caption, "With the best mother-in-law in the world." My heart squeezed. 2 months before the wedding, I received the invitation by mail. An elegant, expensive card with gold lettering. But what broke me was seeing that on the list of sponsors, in the place where the groom's mother should be, they had put Diane as the matron of honor. I called Tyler that same night, with trembling hands. It is just a title, Mom. It does not mean anything. How can it mean nothing? I am your mother, Tyler. Your only mother. And Diane is my wife's mother, and she has been more understanding and generous with us than you. His voice was pure ice. She offered us help with the wedding expenses. She is looking for an apartment for us. She supports our plans. What have you done other than refuse to help when we asked you? I raised you alone for 30 years. That was your decision, not mine. You cannot bill me for something I did not ask for. He hung up, and I was left holding the phone, feeling the walls of my house, that house I had worked so hard for, closing in on me like a tomb. The wedding was beautiful. I sat in the third row, while Diane occupied the place of honor in the first. When the priest asked who gave the bride away, Diane stood up proudly. When he asked who supported the groom, no one moved. At the reception, I watched from my table as Tyler danced the traditional mother-son dance with Diane. The months after the wedding were the loneliest of my life. Tyler and Brittany moved into an apartment that Diane helped them get, 15 minutes from her house and almost an hour from mine. Visits became sporadic, always brief, always tense. When they came, Tyler checked his phone constantly, as if waiting for an excuse to leave. Diane invited us to dinner on Sunday, Brittany would say, with that sweet voice she had perfected. She makes that chicken and wine sauce that Tyler loves. Right, babe. It is incredible, he would respond, with an enthusiasm he never showed when talking about my food. I would smile and nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. I started noticing the subtle changes. Tyler stopped telling me about his work. When I asked him how he was doing at the company where he had just started as a project manager, his answers were vague. Fine, Mom. Everything is fine. But on his Facebook, I saw dozens of photos of celebrations with Diane, with captions like, "Celebrating my promotion with the family that always believes in me." One afternoon, I called to invite him to dinner for his 30th birthday. "I will make your favorite cake, that red velvet one you have loved since you were a kid." There was an uncomfortable pause on the other end of the line. "It is just that we already have plans, Mom." Diane organized a surprise party. She has been planning it for weeks. "But it is your birthday, Tyler. We have always celebrated it together." "Things change, Mom. I have a wife now, a new family. I cannot keep living in the past with you." That night, I cried myself to sleep on the sofa, surrounded by photos of Tyler as a child that filled every corner of that house. 3 months later, Brittany got pregnant. I found out on Facebook, along with the rest of the world. The photo showed Tyler and Brittany holding a pair of tiny cream-colored shoes, with Diane hugging them both, radiant. The caption said, "We are going to be 3. Thank you, Grandma Diane, for always being here for every important step." I dialed Tyler's number with trembling hands. He answered on the 5th ring with a distracted voice. I saw the news. "Congratulations, son. I am going to be a grandma." "Oh, yeah, we wanted to tell you in person, but you know how social media is." He did not sound sorry at all. "Can I visit you guys? Bring something for the baby. Better some other time." "Mom, we are busy with doctors, preparing the nursery. Diane is helping us with everything. You know how she is. She has a lot of experience with these things." I hung up before he could hear me cry. The following weeks were a silent torture. I saw every post, every ultrasound photo, every pregnancy update. Diane was in all of them. I was in none. When I finally worked up the courage to show up unannounced at their apartment with baby clothes I had knitted over entire nights, Brittany opened the door with an uncomfortable expression. "Margaret, what a surprise. I brought some things for my grandson." I held out the bag with the tiny sweaters, the little blankets, the hat with bear ears that had taken me 2 weeks to finish. She took the bag reluctantly, barely looking at the contents. "Oh, cute. Thanks." She did not invite me in. "Is Tyler here?" "He went out with my mom to buy furniture for the baby's room. You know how Diane is. She has impeccable taste for these things." Every word was a stab wound. That night, I saw the photos they posted. The nursery was beautiful, with light wood furniture, elegant decorations, a rocking chair by the window. In one of the photos, Diane posed proudly next to the crib, with text that said, "Thank you, Grandma, for helping us create the perfect nest for our little miracle." The sweaters I had knitted did not appear anywhere. The baby was born on a Tuesday at dawn. I found out 5 hours later, when a distant cousin sent me a congratulatory message. They did not even know I was not at the hospital. I drove like a crazy woman to the clinic, my heart beating so fast I thought it would burst out of my chest. In the waiting room, I found Diane surrounded by Brittany's relatives, handing out cigars and chocolates as if she were the only grandmother. When she saw me, her smile hardened almost imperceptibly. "Margaret, good thing you arrived. He is born. A beautiful boy, 7 pounds. Where is Tyler? Can I see him?" "He is with Brittany in recovery. They only allow one person at a time. She paused deliberately. I was already with them. I held my grandson as soon as he was born. He looks exactly like Brittany when she was a baby. Her grandson. As if she had some right over that child more than I did. I waited 4 hours in that waiting room, watching how Diane received congratulations, how she hugged people, how she posed for photos holding a celebratory cigar. Finally, Tyler appeared, looking haggard, but smiling. "Mom, you can go in now, but only 10 minutes. Brittany is very tired." I entered that room with my heart in my throat. Brittany was lying in bed, pale but radiant, and in her arms, wrapped in a mint-colored blanket, was my grandson. My first grandson. "Can I hold him?" I asked with a trembling voice. Brittany looked at me coldly. "He is asleep. Better not disturb him. Just a moment, please." She sighed with exasperation, as if I were asking for something unreasonable. But she handed him to me. I took that tiny baby in my arms and felt my heart expand to fill the room. He had his eyes closed, fists clenched, breathing soft and rhythmic. "He is perfect. His name is Tommy," said Tyler. "Like Brittany's grandfather. Not like David, his father's name. Not like Michael, my father, who had died when I was 20. Like Brittany's grandfather, a man they did not even know because he had died before they met. He is beautiful," I whispered, kissing his tiny forehead. "It has been 10 minutes, Brittany interrupted. "I need to rest." I went back to my house that night with the smell of the baby still on my clothes, with empty arms and a broken heart. The following months were a parade of subtle humiliations. When they organized the baptism, Diane was the godmother. When they threw Tommy's first birthday party, I arrived and found the house full of photos of Diane with the baby. There was an entire wall dedicated to Tommy's special moments with his grandma Diane. There was not a single photo of me. "It is just that Diane is here every day," Brittany explained when I asked her. "She helps us so much with the baby. She comes in the mornings, stays until night. I do not know what we would do without her. I can help too. You work, Margaret. You do not have time." It was true that I was still working, cleaning houses 3 days a week because my pension barely covered the basics. But the other 4 days I was completely free. "I told you that. It is just that Diane already has an established routine with Tommy," Brittany responded, adjusting her hair. "We do not want to confuse him with too many different people." Too many different people, as if I were a stranger. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to stop by the apartment unannounced. I was carrying a bag with fresh fruit from the market and a chicken casserole I had prepared that morning, thinking Brittany might be tired of cooking with the baby. I rang the doorbell 3 times before someone opened. It was Diane. She was wearing an apron, had flour on her hands, and looked at me with that condescending smile I knew so well. "Margaret, we did not know you were coming. I came to see my grandson. Is Tyler here?" "He is at work, as always." Brittany went to the supermarket. She paused, deliberately blocking the entrance. "I am staying here this week. Brittany had a terrible flu, so I came to help with Tommy while she recovers." Staying, as if she lived there. "I can wait inside. It is just that the baby is sleeping, and we just got him to sleep after 2 hours of crying. Any noise wakes him up." She did not move from the door. We stood there, looking at each other in silence. Finally, I put the bag of food on the floor. "Give this to Brittany when she wakes up." I drove back home with my hands gripping the steering wheel, feeling rage and helplessness burning inside me. That night, I saw a photo on Instagram of Diane giving Tommy a bottle, with the text, "There is no love purer than a grandmother's for her grandson. These moments are what make every sacrifice worth it. Every sacrifice." As if she had sacrificed anything. As if she had spent 30 years working until she destroyed her body to raise that father. 2 weeks later, I received a call from Tyler. His tone was formal, distant, as if he were talking to an acquaintance and not his mother. "Mom, we need to talk. Can you come on Saturday at 3? On Saturday, I arrived on time, my stomach in knots. Tyler opened the door, and inside were Brittany and Diane sitting on the sofa like a tribunal. Tommy was in his playpen, playing with colored blocks. "Sit down, Mom!" Tyler pointed to the single armchair, separated from the rest. I sat down, feeling the weight of their gazes. "We have been talking," Tyler began. and we think it is time to make some important changes in our family situation. I looked at Diane, who was watching me with a triumphant expression barely contained. Diane is living in a house that has a lot of problems, my son continued. Plumbing problems, electrical, even cracks in the walls. It is not safe for a woman her age to be there alone. And with Tommy growing, we need his grandmother to be close, available, in a safe place. The air became heavy. Your house has 3 bedrooms. Mom, Tyler told me that one has been completely empty since he left. Diane could move in there. It would be temporary, just while we fix her house or find something better. The words hit me like stones. We talked about this a long time ago. Tyler, I already told you no. That was before. Brittany intervened, with a voice soft but firm. Before we became part of the same family, Diane is your grandson's grandmother. Margaret, do you not want the best for Tommy? The best for Tommy would be for you to find a solution that does not involve taking away my space, my privacy, my home. Diane leaned forward, clasping her hands as if in prayer. Margaret, I understand your reservations. I really do. But think about it from a practical perspective. I could help you with the household expenses, pay a part of the utilities, the food. It would be beneficial for both of us. I do not need your money. But you work cleaning houses at your age, she said with fake concern. It must be exhausting. With my financial help, maybe you could work less, rest more. The room went silent. Tyler looked at me with a hard expression, waiting for my answer. The answer is no. I bought that house. I paid for it. It is my legacy. I am not going to share it. Tyler stood up, jaw tense. I knew you would say that. Brittany tried to convince me that maybe you had changed, but she was right, Diane. You are selfish to the core. Selfish? I am selfish. Yes, Mom, selfish and resentful. You cannot stand seeing that I have a family that values me, that supports me, that does not make me feel guilty for existing. Diane has done more for us in 2 years than you have in my entire life. The words went through me like knives. Tyler, I raised you alone. I worked until I destroyed myself so you would have everything. There it is again, he shouted, losing his composure. Always the same. I raised you alone. I sacrificed. I worked so much. You know what, Mom? That was your choice. No one forced you. And now you pretend I owe you my entire life for doing the bare minimum expected of a mother. Brittany put a hand on his arm, calming him. Diane looked at me with a mixture of pity and satisfaction that turned my stomach. I stood up on trembling legs. I think I have nothing else to do here. Wait, said Tyler, with a more controlled voice. There is something else. We have decided that if you are not willing to help Diane, then maybe you should consider helping us in another way. What way? He exchanged a look with Brittany before continuing. That house is very big for you alone, and we need more space now with the baby. We are thinking of expanding, maybe having another child soon. We have seen bigger apartments, but they are all out of our budget. My heart started beating faster. Could you sell us the house? Brittany said softly. At a fair price, of course. And with that money, you could rent something smaller, more manageable for you. Something without so many stairs, without so much to clean. Oh, Diane added, leaning forward. You could simply transfer the house to Tyler's name. He is your only son. Anyway, someday it will be his. Why wait? You could stay living there as long as you need, but knowing that you are giving your son his inheritance while you are alive. It would be a beautiful gesture on your part. I looked at the 3 of them, one by one. Tyler, with that cold expression I no longer recognized. Brittany, with her calculating smile. Diane, with her eyes shining with barely contained greed. Never, I said with a trembling but firm voice. That house is mine. I earned it with my sweat, with my blood. I am not going to give it away to anyone. Then do not expect to be part of this family. Tyler responded coldly. If you cannot make this sacrifice for your own son, for your grandson, then I think we are done here. You are threatening me. I am telling you the truth. Diane is willing to give everything for us. You are not? Then I know who deserves my loyalty, my time, my love. I took my purse with trembling hands and walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned one last time. Someday, you are going to understand what you are doing, Tyler. And I hope when that day comes, it is not too late. I am not going to understand anything, Mom, because there is nothing to understand. I am simply choosing to be with the people who really care about me. I drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice because I could not see the road. I arrived at my empty house, that house I had worked 20 years for, and sat on the living room floor, surrounded by photos of a boy who no longer existed. That night I could not sleep. I stayed awake in the dark, thinking about Tyler's words, Diane's smile, the future stretching out in front of me like an endless desert of loneliness. But at some point in that long, bitter night, something changed inside me. The sadness hardened, crystallized into something different, something cold and clear as ice. If they wanted my house, if they thought they could manipulate me, pressure me, take away the only thing I had, then they were going to discover something they had clearly forgotten. I had not survived 30 years alone by being weak. I got out of bed at 5 in the morning, turned on my laptop, and started searching. Lawyers specializing in property law, lawyers specializing in inheritances, lawyers who knew how to protect the assets of a single woman against those who wanted to snatch them away. I found the lawyer, Mr. Harrison, 3 days after that devastating meeting. His office was downtown, in an old building with slow elevators that creaked on the way up. The waiting room had worn leather chairs and old magazines, but the internet reviews said he was the best in asset protection cases for seniors. He was a man of about 50, with graying temples and eyes that seemed to see more than what one said. He received me with a firm handshake and offered me coffee that I accepted only to have something to occupy my trembling hands. "Tell me, Mrs. Margaret, what brings you here?" I told him everything, every humiliation, every snub, every hurtful word. I told him about Diane and her venomous smile, about Brittany and her subtle manipulation, about Tyler and how he had changed until he became unrecognizable. I showed him the documents for the house, the deed that had been in my name for 7 years. Mr. Harrison listened in silence, taking occasional notes in a leather notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me with an expression I could not decipher. "Do you know what the biggest mistake people in your situation make?" he asked. I shook my head, thinking they have no power, thinking that because someone pressures them, manipulates them, or makes them feel guilty, they have no options. He tapped the table gently with his finger. "But you have all the power here, Mrs. Margaret. Absolutely all of it. You just need to learn how to use it." "I do not understand." He leaned forward, fingers interlaced. "That house is in your name. You bought it. You paid for it. You have absolute control over it. No one, and listen to me well, no one can force you to sell it, transfer it, or share it if you do not want to. Not your son, not your daughter-in-law, and certainly not that woman you barely know. But Tyler says that someday it will be his anyway. Someday, when you pass away, yes, it will be part of his inheritance. But while you are alive and in full possession of your mental faculties, that property is exclusively yours, and there are ways to protect it even after your death, if you so desire." I felt something light up in my chest. A small but bright spark. "What ways?" Mr. Harrison opened a folder and took out several documents. "We can do several things. First, I can draft a legal document explicitly stating that any transfer of that property must be done under certain specific conditions. Second, we can create a legal structure where the property remains protected from third-party claims." He paused. "But I have an important question for you, Mrs. Margaret. What do you really want? To protect the house, or teach these people who have treated you so poorly a lesson?" The question took me by surprise. I remained silent, thinking, what did I really want? "I want them to understand," I said finally, with a trembling voice, "that they cannot trample on me, that I am not the weak and manipulable woman they think I am. I want them to feel even a fraction of the pain they have caused me." Mr. Harrison nodded slowly, with an almost imperceptible smile. "Then I have a proposal for you, but it requires you to trust me completely and be willing to act with a lot of coldness. Can you do that?" "I can do whatever is necessary." "Good." He took out more papers. "Here is what we are going to do." For the next 2 hours, Mr. Harrison explained a plan that was as brilliant as it was ruthless. It involved reviewing every document of the house, investigating the property's history, looking for any detail that might be relevant. He asked me to bring all the papers I had related to the purchase, payments, improvements I had made to the house over these years. "There is something else I need to know," he said as I was getting ready to leave. "Does this house have debts? Back taxes? Any legal problem you know of?" "Nothing. I have always paid everything on time. I have never been late a single month on anything." "Perfect." His eyes shone. "That gives us even more options." I left that office feeling different, lighter, somehow, as if I had deposited the weight of my pain in capable hands. The following days were frantic. I gathered every document Mr. Harrison had asked for. Payment receipts from 20 years ago, documents from the original purchase, improvement receipts, repair invoices. I organized everything chronologically in colored folders, working until late at night at the dining table. Tyler did not call in those 2 weeks. Not once. I saw photos on social media of family celebrations, walks to the park with Tommy, elegant dinners. Diane was in all of them. I did not exist. In one particularly painful photo, Tyler was holding his son while Diane hugged them both. The text read, "The family I chose. Thank you, Diane, for teaching me what true unconditional love is." I printed that photo and kept it in a separate folder. Evidence of everything. When I returned to Mr. Harrison's office with all the folders, he spent 3 full days reviewing every paper. He made calls, consulted with other lawyers, investigated legal aspects I did not even know existed. Finally, he summoned me on a Friday afternoon. When I entered his office, another man was there, older, with a perfectly pressed gray suit and a black leather briefcase. "Mrs. Margaret, let me introduce you to the notary, Mr. Thompson. He is going to be crucial in what we are going to do." We sat, the 3 of us, around the conference table. Mr. Harrison spread several documents in front of me. After reviewing everything exhaustively, I found something interesting. He pointed to one of the papers. "The house you bought has a complex history. Before you acquired it, it went through 3 different owners in a period of 10 years. Do you know why?" I shook my head. "Because it has zoning issues that were never completely resolved. The property is classified in a way that allows residential use, but there are specific clauses regarding structural modifications that have been violated over the years. Nothing serious, nothing that affects its current use, but enough to create significant legal complications if someone wanted, for example, to sell the property or transfer it." "I do not understand what that means." Mr. Harrison smiled. "It means that house, in its current state, has a market value of approximately $300,000. But legally, if someone wanted to transfer it without first resolving these zoning issues, they would also inherit a series of potential debts with the municipality, fines for code violations that were never collected but remain active in the records. We are talking about approximately $250,000 in penalties accumulated over decades." My heart started beating faster. "And what does that mean for me? For you, nothing. You bought the house in good faith, have lived there peacefully for years. These debts are technically the municipality's against the property, not against you personally. As long as you are the owner and live there, no one is going to come collect them. But if I transfer the house to someone else?" "Exactly. The person who receives that property would receive, automatically, the legal responsibility to resolve those problems. And believe me, resolving them would cost much more than the $250,000 in fines. We would be talking about lawyers, paperwork with the city, possible structural renovations, easily another $200,000 more." Mr. Thompson, the notary, intervened with a deep voice. "What Mr. Harrison is proposing is quite ingenious. Ma'am, we can prepare completely legal transfer documents. You would give the house to whomever you decide, but that person would receive the property with all its attached legal problems. Problems they do not know about, but that are perfectly documented in the public municipal records." "We would not be deceiving anyone," clarified Mr. Harrison quickly. "All the information is publicly available. If they did their due diligence, investigated the property before accepting it, they would find these problems. But if they are so anxious to take the house that they do not investigate—" He shrugged. My head was spinning. What if I simply tell them no, that I am never going to give them the house? Then they will keep pressuring you, manipulating you, making your life impossible. And eventually, when you pass away, Tyler will inherit the house anyway, and they will win. Mr. Harrison looked me directly in the eyes. But if you give them what they want now, in the right way, they will learn a lesson they will never forget. I spent that entire night awake, tossing and turning in bed, thinking about Mr. Harrison's proposal. A part of me, the part that had raised Tyler with so much love, resisted. How could I do this to my own son? But another part, the part that had been humiliated, ignored, and replaced, whispered that he had asked for it, that Diane and Brittany had asked for it. At 6 a.m, I made my decision. I called Mr. Harrison as soon as his office opened. Let's do it. But I want it to be perfect. I want every document to be flawless, so there is no way they can say I tricked them. Do not worry, Mrs. Margaret. It will be completely legal. They will receive exactly what they are asking for. Over the next 3 weeks, Mr. Harrison and I met 6 times. We prepared every detail meticulously. He investigated the property even further and discovered that the problems were even worse than we initially thought. There were building permit violations from 15 years ago, when the previous owner had expanded the kitchen without the appropriate permits. There were problems with water connections that had never been officially regularized. Each problem was minor individually, but together they created a legal web that would cost a fortune to untangle. The best part, explained Mr. Harrison with an almost malicious smile, is that once they sign the transfer documents, specifically a quitclaim deed, all these problems automatically become their legal responsibility. The city will have 60 days to officially notify them of the violations. And then the countdown to resolve them or face even greater penalties begins. And there is no way they can return the house to me? Technically, they could try to argue fraud, but we would have to have actively lied to them about the state of the property. Since we are not going to lie to them about anything, since all the information is in public records, they have no case. Once they sign, it is theirs, problems and all. Mr. Thompson prepared the transfer documents. They were thick, full of complex legal language that seemed taken from a lawyer novel. Nowhere did they lie about the state of the house. They simply transferred the property as is, with all its inherent rights, obligations, and legal burdens. Any competent lawyer who reviewed those documents would realize immediately that there was something suspicious in that phrase. But we were betting that they would be so excited to get the house that they would not check anything. Meanwhile, at home, I kept up the act. When Tyler finally called after 3 weeks of silence, I pretended to be defeated, tired. "Hello, son," I said with a weak voice. "Mom, have you thought about what we talked about?" I have not thought about anything else. That was true, although not in the way he believed. There was a pause. "And I want you all to come home this Saturday. The 3 of you, Brittany, and Diane. We have to talk." I heard him say something to someone on the other end, probably Brittany. "Did you change your mind about the house? Come Saturday at 3. We will talk then." I hung up before he could ask more questions. That night I slept for the first time in weeks, a deep sleep, without nightmares. Saturday arrived cloudy and cold. I made coffee and brought out the good cups, the porcelain ones I only used on special occasions. How ironic that this was one of those occasions. I placed the documents Mr. Harrison had given me in a thick manila envelope, identical to the ones used for important papers. I put it on the dining room sideboard, waiting. They arrived at 3 o'clock sharp, Tyler with a cautious expression, Brittany with that calculating smile I detested so much, and Diane with eyes shining with barely contained anticipation. They did not bring the baby. They probably thought it would be a difficult conversation. I showed them into the living room. I served coffee that no one touched. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a few seconds that seemed eternal. "So, Mom," Tyler began, "why did you summon us?" I took a deep breath, letting the moment stretch out. "I have been thinking a lot about what you said, about the house, about my selfishness, about Diane needing a safe place to live." I saw Diane straighten up on the sofa, how Brittany squeezed Tyler's hand. "And you are right. This house is too big for me alone, and you have needs that I have been ignoring for my own pride." The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but I said them with conviction. "I have decided that Diane can move in here." The silence was absolute. The three of them looked at me as if I had said something in another language. "Seriously?" asked Brittany, voice full of disbelief. "Seriously. But with one condition." "What?" Tyler's voice was cautious. "That the house passes to Diane's name officially. I do not want to live with her as my tenant or guest. If she is going to live here, let it be in her own house. I will move to a smaller apartment, as you suggested, something more manageable." The three exchanged looks of absolute surprise. Diane looked like she was going to faint from emotion. "Mom, are you sure?" Tyler asked, although in his eyes I already saw the greed. "It is your legacy, your inheritance for me, I am sure. Besides, someday it would be yours anyway, right? And if Diane is as important to you as you say, then let her enjoy the house now, when she can take advantage of it. When you inherit from her eventually, it will be the same." It was perfect. I was giving them exactly what they wanted in a way that sounded noble and self-sacrificing. I saw how Diane held back tears of happiness, how Brittany squeezed her hand. "Oh, Margaret," said Diane with a breaking voice. "You do not know what this means to me. You have been so generous, so understanding. Forgive me if I was ever harsh with you. It is just that one protects one's children, you know?" I nodded, swallowing the bile. "I know perfectly well. When can we do the transfer?" Brittany asked, always practical. "I have the documents ready." I got up and took the envelope from the sideboard. I placed it on the coffee table with a soft thud. "My lawyer already prepared everything. We just need the signatures and a notary, who will come on Monday if you agree." Tyler took the envelope and opened it. He took out the documents and began to flip through them. I saw his eyes scanning the pages, stopping occasionally at some legal phrase. I held my breath. This was the critical moment. If he read carefully, if he took the documents to a lawyer of his own, everything would crumble. "It is a lot of legal text," he said, after a few minutes, closing the envelope. "But basically it says, you transfer the entire property to Diane's name, right?" "Exactly. The house will be completely hers, with everything that implies." "And what do you receive in return?" he asked, with some suspicion finally appearing. "Nothing. It is a gift. My way of showing you that you are more important to me than a property." I almost choked on the words. Diane stood up and hugged me. She smelled of expensive perfume and triumph. "You are an extraordinary woman, Margaret. I judged you poorly. Forgive me." I hugged her back, feeling every muscle in my body tense with the effort of not pushing her away. "There is nothing to forgive." Tyler also approached, hugging me clumsily. "Thank you. Mom, this means a lot to us. For the whole family." That night, after they left promising to return Monday with Diane for the official signing, I poured myself a glass of wine I almost never drank and sat on the sofa. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anticipation. Monday arrived with a clear sky that seemed to mock what was about to happen. Mr. Harrison arrived early with Mr. Thompson, the notary. We went over everything one last time. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Mrs. Margaret?" asked Mr. Harrison, although his eyes shone with something that looked like admiration. "Once they sign, there is no going back. I have never been more sure of anything in my life." Diane arrived dressed as if she were going to a gala. She wore a champagne-colored suit with jewelry that probably cost more than my car, and that perfect makeup that screamed, "I can afford it." Brittany came by her side in a pearl-colored dress, smiling as if it were her lucky day. Tyler brought up the rear with a satisfied expression, carrying a briefcase that probably contained documents he was not going to need. "Good morning," Diane greeted with a sing-song voice. "What a beautiful day to close this deal. Do you not think?" Mr. Harrison introduced himself formally, shaking hands with his professional smile that revealed nothing. Mr. Thompson did the same, with that seriousness that notaries cultivate as second nature. I invited them all to sit around the dining table, the same table where I had served countless dinners for Tyler when he was a child. "Well," Mr. Thompson began, opening his briefcase and taking out more documents. "Let us proceed with the property transfer, Mrs. Margaret. Do you confirm that you wish to voluntarily transfer this property located at 247 Ash Street to the name of Mrs. Diane Martinez?" "That is correct," I said with a firm voice. "And Mrs. Diane, Do you accept receiving this property with all rights, obligations, and legal burdens inherent to it? Diane practically glowed. Of course I do. I accept completely. Perfect. Mr. Thompson spread the documents on the table. These are the transfer deeds. Mrs. Margaret, I need you to sign here, here, and here. He pointed with his pen to the lines marked with small X's. I took the pen with a steady hand. With each signature, I thought of all the humiliations, all the slights, all the times they had made me feel invisible. I signed with clear, large letters. Margaret Robinson. My name. My decision. Now you, Mrs. Diane. Diane practically snatched the pen from Mr. Thompson. She signed with an exaggerated flourish, as if she were autographing something for her fans. With each signature, she smiled more broadly. Tyler and Brittany watched with expressions of absolute satisfaction. Excellent, said Mr. Thompson, gathering the signed documents and placing his notary seal on each page. The thump of the seal sounded like a sentence. The transfer is now official and legal. Mrs. Diane, you are the new owner of this house. Diane let out a scream of joy and hugged Brittany, who also looked moved to tears. Tyler smiled widely, approaching to give Diane a kiss on the cheek. Congratulations, Mom. You deserve it. Oh, son, Diane responded, using that possessive term that always turned my stomach. This is a dream come true. Finally, I am going to have a dignified, safe, beautiful home. I then took out the envelope I had prepared. The same thick manila envelope I had mentioned in my initial story. I placed it on the table with deliberate care. There is one more thing, I said calmly. Everyone looked at me. Diane took the envelope with eager hands, probably expecting keys or some other welcome document. She opened it. She took the papers out from inside, and I saw the exact moment she began to read the first document. It was Mr. Harrison's complete report on the legal status of the property. 20 pages detailing every code violation, every zoning issue, every pending fine, every legal complication that was now completely Diane's responsibility. The figures were highlighted in bright yellow. $250,000 in accumulated fines. Estimated $200,000 additional to resolve structural and permit issues. The color disappeared from her face like water draining away. Her hands began to shake. The papers almost fell. What? What is this? Her voice was barely a strangled whisper. Tyler snatched the documents, reading with eyes that widened with every line. Mom, what the hell is this? It is the complete legal status of the property you just accepted, I responded calmly. Everything is documented in public records. You could have investigated it yourselves before signing. Brittany snatched the papers from Tyler's hands, her eyes moving frantically over the pages. This says there are fines for almost $500,000 between everything. $450,000, to be exact, corrected Mr. Harrison with a professional voice, plus interest that continues to accumulate monthly since the violations were recorded. This cannot be real. Diane's scream echoed off the walls. You are joking. This has to be a damn joke. It is no joke, Mr. Thompson intervened, with a grave tone. Every one of those violations is officially recorded. You can verify it yourselves at the municipal office. And now that Mrs. Diane is the legal owner, all those obligations are hers as well. Diane stood up so abruptly her chair fell backward with a crash. But you lived here for years. Why did they never charge you anything? Because while I lived here as the original owner in good faith, the city did not execute the fines. It is a common policy. But the moment there is a property transfer, the mandatory notification process is activated. You will receive an official letter in approximately 60 days. Tyler looked at me with a mixture of horror and disbelief. You knew all this. You knew it and you told us nothing. I did not lie to you about anything. I gave you exactly what you asked for. The house, completely yours, with everything that implies. I repeated the same words I had used on Saturday, but now they sounded completely different. This is fraud, shouted Brittany, with tears of rage running down her perfectly made-up cheeks. You deceived us deliberately. Mr. Harrison stood up, taking more documents out of his briefcase. There is no fraud whatsoever, ma'am. The transfer documents clearly specified that the property was transferred, as is, with all its inherent rights, obligations, and legal burdens. That is standard terminology any lawyer would recognize as a warning sign to investigate further. You chose not to do so, but we did not know there were problems. Diane was almost hysterical now. Ignorance does not exempt you from legal responsibility, continued Mr. Harrison relentlessly. All the information was available in public records. You had the right and responsibility to investigate the property before accepting it. You did not do it. That was your decision. Tyler dropped into a chair, face in his hands. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe you did this to us. I did not do anything to you, I said, and for the first time in months, my voice sounded strong, clear, without any tremor. You came to me demanding this house. You pressured me, manipulated me, made me feel selfish and terrible for not wanting to gift you my assets. I just gave you what you wanted so much. But you knew it was full of problems. Brittany was red with rage. And you knew you were hurting me, humiliating me, replacing me. Did you care? No. So, why should I care that the house you coveted so much comes with complications? Diane grabbed the documents again, reading with desperation, as if she expected to find some magic exit written in them. There has to be a way to reverse this, to give you back the house. Technically, yes, admitted Mr. Harrison. You could transfer the property back to Mrs. Margaret, but that would require her to accept, which she is not obligated to do, and even if she did, you would still be responsible for the fines accumulated during the time you were owners. Besides, I added, why would I want back a property with so many problems? It seems most sensible for me to move to something simpler, as you yourselves suggested. I already found a charming, small, manageable apartment. Without legal complications. The silence that followed was dense as concrete. The three of them looked at me as if they were seeing me for the first time. And maybe it was true. Maybe they had never really seen me. Do you know what the worst part of all this is? Tyler said finally, with a broken voice. That I thought you had finally understood. That finally you were going to put your family first. But you were just planning this sick revenge. It is not revenge, son. It is justice. There is a difference. You are a snake, screamed Diane. A venomous snake, disguised as a lamb. I stood up slowly, feeling every one of my 65 years in my knees, but also feeling something else. Something I had not felt in a long time. Dignity, power, control over my own life. You can call me whatever you want, Diane, snake, lamb, whatever makes you feel better. But the reality is simple. You wanted this house. You have it. I did not force you to sign anything. You signed voluntarily, without investigating, without consulting a lawyer of your own, because you were so blinded by greed, you did not stop to think. Mom, please. Tyler approached, and for the first time in months, I saw something resembling real desperation in his eyes. There has to be a solution. We cannot pay $450,000. We do not have that money. Diane does not have that money. Then maybe you should speak with a lawyer about your options. Declare bankruptcy, negotiate a payment plan with the city, sell the property to someone else who wants to deal with the problems. I shrugged. It is not my problem anymore. It is Diane's. She is the owner now. Brittany had stayed quiet, reading and rereading the documents as if expecting the words to magically change. Finally she looked up, eyes red. We could sue you. For concealment of information? For fraud, for whatever. Mr. Harrison let out a short, dry laugh. You can try, but I assure you, you would lose. And it would cost you another $50,000 or $60,000 in legal fees you clearly do not have. The documents are flawless. The transfer was voluntary. All the information was publicly available. There is no case. Besides, I added, feeling a cold but real satisfaction. Do you really want this to be made public? Do you want everyone to know how you tried to manipulate an older woman into gifting you her assets? How you replaced her? Humiliated her? Excluded her from the family? Because I have screenshots of every post on social media where you erased me. I have messages. I have witnesses of how you treated me. If this goes to court, all that comes to light. Diane dropped onto the sofa, weeping openly now. Her perfect makeup ran in black lines down her cheeks. I am going to lose everything. My old house is uninhabitable. I have nowhere to live. and now I have an impossible debt to pay. Maybe, I said with a soft but firm voice, you should have thought about that before trying to steal someone else's house. Actions have consequences. Diane, welcome to real life. Tyler looked at me with an expression I had never seen on him. It was a mixture of hate, pain, disbelief, and something else. Something that looked dangerously like respect. I cannot believe you are capable of this. The mom I knew would have never done something like this. The mom you knew let herself be trampled on. She sacrificed until she had nothing. She worked until she destroyed herself so you would have everything. And you discarded her like trash the moment someone appeared with more money and better connections. My voice cracked slightly, but I continued. That mom died the day you told me Diane deserved more than me. This mom, the one you are seeing now, is the one who survived that murder. The silence was absolute. Only Diane's sobs were heard. Mr. Harrison began to pack his documents. My work here is done. Mrs. Diane, I strongly suggest you consult with a lawyer specializing in municipal law as soon as possible. You have 60 days before additional penalties begin to accumulate. Mrs. Margaret, I will contact you next week to finalize the details of your move. Mr. Thompson also prepared to leave, stamping his final documents with that official thud that sounded like absolute finality. I wish you all luck. You are going to need it. When they both left, the four of us remained in that living room that had been my home for 7 years. A home I had filled with memories of Tyler, with photos of his childhood, with every penny of my sweat converted into walls and a roof. There is one more thing you should know, I said, breaking the heavy silence. Tyler looked up, eyes bloodshot. What else could there be? The day after you humiliated me in that meeting where you demanded the house, you posted photos celebrating. Tyler, you called me that night. Remember what you told me? His face went pale. You told me you had sold the living room furniture, those antique pieces that, according to you, no one used. You sold them for $3,000 and mocked me because, according to you, you finally got something out of my stinginess. Brittany closed her eyes. Diane stopped crying, looking at me with growing horror. That furniture was not mine. Tyler, it was part of the house inventory that came with the property. It is registered in the Municipal Catalog of Protected Assets because it has historical value. By selling it without authorization, you committed an additional crime, trafficking in heritage assets. No, I did not know. Tyler stuttered. I know. You did not know because you never investigated anything. You never cared to know what you were doing. You just wanted the money. I took out my phone and showed them the screenshot of his message. I have this. And I have the sale receipt you so kindly shared in your family WhatsApp group, the group you removed me from 3 months ago. What does that mean? Brittany asked with a trembling voice. It means that, in addition to the house fines, you could face criminal charges. The fine for trafficking heritage assets starts at $50,000 and can include jail time. I put away my phone. Of course, I could decide not to report it. I could forget this happened. What do you want? Diane had stopped crying, looking at me with calculating eyes despite everything. Even in her defeat, she was trying to negotiate. I want nothing from you, but I want you to understand something very clearly. I walked up to Tyler, looking him directly in the eyes. For 30 years, I gave everything for you. Every drop of sweat, every hour of lost sleep, every pain in my back, every time my hands bled from work. I gave it all. And you threw it in the trash for a woman you met 2 years ago and her manipulative mother. Mom, I am not finished. My voice was pure steel. You taught me that in this world, kindness is interpreted as weakness. That sacrifice does not generate gratitude, but contempt. That people will take and take until there is nothing left of you. So thank you. Thank you for teaching me to be strong, to protect myself, to not let anyone trample on me ever again. I headed to the door, taking my purse. You have the keys to the house. It is completely yours now. Diane, enjoy it. I will move to my new apartment next weekend. You can keep all the furniture that is left, with the curtains, with everything. The only thing I will take are my personal photos and my clothes. And that is it? Tyler asked with a broken voice. Just like that you leave and leave us with this nightmare. I stopped at the door, looking at him one last time. Exactly like you did with me, son. Exactly the same. I walked out of that house with my head held high. I heard behind me the sound of Diane crying again, of Brittany talking fast with someone on the phone, probably some lawyer. I heard Tyler scream my name once. Twice. I did not turn around. I drove to the small apartment I had rented 2 weeks before. A modest place on a second floor, with 1 bedroom, a combined living dining room, and a tiny kitchen. The windows faced a park where children played. It was all I needed. That night, alone in my almost empty new space, I made myself tea and sat by the window. My phone rang incessantly for hours. Tyler called 17 times. Brittany, 6. Diane, 3. I did not answer any. Finally, a text message arrived from Tyler. Mom, please, we need to talk. This cannot end like this. You are my mother. I need you. I looked at that message for a long time. Part of me, that maternal part that 30 years cannot completely erase, wanted to answer, wanted to fix everything, make the pain disappear. But that part was no longer in charge. I blocked the number and turned off the phone. 3 weeks passed before I turned my phone back on. 3 weeks of silent peace in my small apartment, where only I decided what to do with my time. I woke up when I wanted, ate toast and coffee looking at the park, walked around the neighborhood aimlessly. It was the first time in 30 years I lived only for myself. When I finally turned on the phone, I found 143 messages, most from Tyler, some from Brittany, a few from Diane. I read them all at once, like someone reading a sad book whose ending they already know. The first messages were of rage. You are a horrible person. I cannot believe you are my mother. I hope you are happy destroying your own family. Then came the bargaining ones. Mom, please, let's talk. Surely we can find a solution. If you help us with this, I promise everything will be different. Diane is willing to apologize. Then the desperate ones arrived. The city notified us officially. It is $320,000 now with accumulated interest. The lawyers say there is no legal way out. Please, Mom, I do not know what to do. And finally, the last ones, sent just 2 days ago. I had to sell my car to pay the first lawyer. Brittany is considering divorce. She says I dragged her into this. Diane had a panic attack and is in the hospital. Mom, I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please. I read that last message 3 times. I am sorry. 3 words I had waited to hear for months. 3 words that now arrived too late, tinged with desperation instead of genuine regret. I closed the messages without answering any. Mr. Harrison called me that afternoon. Mrs. Margaret, I have news. The municipal office contacted me. Apparently your son and Mrs. Diane are trying to sell the property to pay the fines, but they cannot find buyers because any basic investigation reveals the legal problems. And what are they going to do? They are trying to negotiate a payment plan with the city. Monthly payment is $1,200 for the next 15 years. If they are late a single month, the penalties skyrocket and they could lose it anyway. $1,200 a month, more than I earned cleaning houses. I felt a pang of satisfaction that was not completely comfortable, but I could not deny either. There is something else, continued Mr. Harrison. Your son contacted me directly. He wants to know if you would be willing to meet with him. Just the 2 of you. Without Diane. Without Brittany. He says he needs to speak with you. What did you tell him? That I would pass the message, and the decision was completely yours. I remained silent, looking out the window where a mother pushed her small son on a swing. Up, down, up, down. A simple and repetitive movement that was somehow comforting. Tell him yes, but let it be in a public place. The coffee shop by Central Park, Thursday at 3 in the afternoon. Thursday arrived cloudy and cold. I put on a lavender sweater I had bought the week before, the first one I bought for myself in years. I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early. I ordered a chamomile tea and sat at a table by the window. Tyler arrived exactly at 3. He looked haggard, as if he had lost 10 pounds in 3 weeks. He had deep, dark circles and his clothes, although clean, were wrinkled. He sat in front of me saying nothing at first, just looking at me as if he were seeing a ghost. Hello, Mom, he said finally, with a raspy voice. Tyler. He ordered a black coffee he did not touch. We sat in awkward silence for almost a full minute. "I do not know where to start," he admitted finally. "You can start at the beginning, or at the end, or anywhere in between you feel you need to say." He took a deep breath, clasping his hands on the table. "Brittany asked me for a divorce, officially. She says I deceived her about my family's financial status, that I never told her my mother was a vengeful and dangerous woman. She has her lawyers looking for ways to annul the marriage or prove she signed the house documents under duress. And Diane, she had a nervous breakdown. She is at a cousin's house in another state. She says she cannot stand seeing the house, knowing it is hers, but it is destroying her financially. The doctors prescribed her anti-anxiety meds. I felt no satisfaction hearing that, just a strange emptiness. I lost my job," he continued. "Well, technically I resigned. I could not concentrate. I made big mistakes on several projects. My boss suggested I take indefinite time off, euphemism for leave before we fire you." He rubbed his eyes. "Tommy is with Brittany now. She took him to her sister's house. She says she does not want him growing up in this environment of stress and legal problems. That did hurt. I do not see him. Once a week? Supervised visits? As if I were a danger to my own son." His voice cracked. Everything crumbled. "Mom, everything. My marriage, my job, my family, my reputation, everything. And you came here expecting me to fix it." He looked at me with eyes full of tears he refused to shed. "I came here because I finally understood something. Something I should have understood a long time ago." "What?" "That you went through this same thing, this loneliness, this rejection, this feeling that the whole world turns its back on you. But you lived it for 30 years while raising your son alone. I have barely been at it 3 weeks, and I am already falling apart." He let out a bitter laugh. "How weak I am compared to you." The words floated between us like falling leaves. "I did not come to ask you to fix anything," he continued. "I know you would not do it, and honestly, I know I do not deserve it. I came because I needed you to know something. I needed you to hear it from my mouth, looking me in the eyes." "What?" "That you were right. About everything. About Diane manipulating me. About Brittany using our relationship for her family's benefit. About me being an ungrateful son who threw away a lifetime of sacrifice." Tears finally fell down his cheeks. "You were right, and I was terribly, unforgivably wrong." I felt something tighten in my chest. It was not triumph. It was something much more complex and painful. "I spent these weeks going over every memory of my childhood," he said, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand, "remembering how I never lacked anything, how you always had a smile for me, even if you arrived from work destroyed, how you celebrated every little achievement of mine as if it were the most important event in the world. And then I remembered how I treated you these last 2 years, the things I said to you, the times I excluded you, how I let Diane replace you in my life as if you were interchangeable." "Tyler." "No, let me finish. Please," he breathed shakily. "I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to fix this mess I created myself. I just needed you to know that I finally see it. I see it all, and I hate myself for it." I drank my tea with hands that shook slightly. "And what are you going to do now?" "Survive. Somehow. I got a temporary job in a warehouse. Pays $800 a month, barely enough for the payment plan with the city. I had to move into a rented room. Diane declared personal bankruptcy. The house will probably end up in foreclosure eventually, but at least the fines will be partially covered. And Brittany. The divorce will be final in 6 months. She is already seeing someone else. A bank manager she met at a conference." He smiled without humor, apparently looking for financial stability, something I can no longer offer. We fell silent again. Outside, the rain began to fall softly, splashing the windows of the coffee shop. "Can I ask you something?" he said finally. "Ask. Are you ever going to be able to forgive me?" The question floated between us, heavy and inevitable. I had been waiting for it, but still, it took me by surprise. "I do not know," I responded honestly. "Maybe someday. But not today. Not soon. What you did to me, what you all did, left very deep scars." He nodded, accepting. "I understand. But I can tell you this. Even if I do not forgive you soon, I hope you learn from this. I hope when Tommy grows up, you remember how this pain feels, and that you never, ever let anyone make him feel invisible or replaceable. That you value his sacrifices, that you see his full humanity, not just what he can do for you. I will. I swear to you. He stood up to leave, but stopped. One last thing. Are you happy now? In your new apartment? With your new life? At least you achieved that. I thought of my small space, of the quiet mornings with my coffee, of the walks without destination, of the nights sleeping without worries about who judged me or excluded me. I am learning to be, I said finally. For the first time in 30 years, I am learning what it means to live for myself. Tyler nodded, with something that looked like painful peace in his eyes. I am glad, really. You deserve it. I watched him walk away under the rain, shoulders hunched, carrying the weight of his decisions. Part of me wanted to run after him, hug him, tell him everything would be okay. But that part had learned to stay still. I finished my tea slowly, watching the rain. My phone vibrated. A message from Mr. Harrison, the lawyer. The city accepted the payment plan. The case is legally closed. Legally closed. But emotionally, I knew this would take years to heal, if it ever healed. That night, in my apartment, I took out a box I had kept in the closet. It was full of photos of Tyler as a child, Tyler learning to walk, Tyler on his first day of school, Tyler graduating from college, with that radiant pride in his eyes. I looked at them all, one by one, allowing myself to feel the full pain. And then, carefully, I put them away again. I did not throw them out. I did not destroy them. I just put them away, because that boy in the photos deserved to be remembered. That boy was real. That love had been real. What came after had also been real, but it did not define everything we had been. I sat by the window, looking at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Tyler was learning the hardest lessons of his life. Diane faced the consequences of her manipulation. Brittany looked for her next victim. And I was here, alone but not broken, hurt but healing, without the weight of carrying people who only knew how to take. For the first time in decades, the future was not a list of sacrifices I had to make. It was a blank page I could fill however I wanted. I opened my laptop and searched for painting classes at the community center. I had always wanted to paint. I never had time. Now I had it. I enrolled in a watercolor class on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon. It started next week. I closed the laptop and smiled. A small smile, but genuine. Sometimes, silence is the only answer you need, and sometimes, the best revenge is simply building a life that no longer needs to take revenge on anyone. My phone vibrated one last time that night. Another message from Tyler. Good night, Mom. Even if you do not answer, I want you to know I think of you every day, and I regret every day not having been the son you deserved. I read it, saved it, and turned off the light. Tomorrow would be another day. The first of many. I would live exactly as I chose, and that was more than I had had in 30 years.